The reservation card read Emma Carter, written in elegant script and placed neatly beside a single candle. The restaurant glowed with soft amber light, crystal glasses chiming gently as servers moved between tables. He checked his watch for the third time. 10 minutes late. Unusual, but not impossible. He was about to signal the waiter when a small shadow fell across the white tablecloth. A little girl stood there, no taller than the table itself. She wore a faded blue dress and a thin cardigan that looked borrowed, the sleeves slightly too long. A pink backpack hung from her shoulders, its zipper broken and tied with a piece of string. Her dark hair was pulled back with a ribbon that had lost its shape. She looked around the room once, taking in the chandeliers, the polished floors, the quiet luxury, then her gaze locked onto him. "Are you Mr. Daniel?" she asked politely. He blinked, confused. "Yes, I am. And you are." Instead of answering, she climbed carefully onto the chair across from him, setting the backpack on her lap as if this were the most natural thing in the world. Her feet didn't reach the floor. She smoothed the tablecloth with small, deliberate hands before finally looking up again. "Mom's sick," she said simply. "So I came instead." The words hit him harder than any boardroom ambush ever had. He glanced around, expecting laughter, a hidden camera, someone rushing over to explain the joke. But no one was paying attention. The violinist kept playing. The waiter poured wine at the next table. This was real. "You came alone?" he asked, lowering his voice. She nodded. "Mom has a fever." She tried to stand up but got dizzy. She didn't want to cancel because she said you seemed important. Her voice wavered for just a second before she straightened her shoulders. "I told her I could do it." He felt something unfamiliar stir in his chest, alarm mixed with admiration. "What's your name?" "Lily," she said, offering a shy smile. "I'm 7. I know I'm not who you were expecting, but Mom said being honest matters most." As she spoke, he realized this wasn't a mistake or a trick. It was courage, walking into a luxury restaurant wearing worn shoes, carrying a grown-up's responsibility far too heavy for such small hands. And in that moment, the billionaire forgot about the date entirely, because something far more important had just sat down across from him. He closed the menu slowly and pushed it aside, suddenly aware of how absurd the crisp linen and polished silverware felt in front of a child who looked like she'd stepped out of a much harsher world. "Lily," he said gently, "are you hungry?" She nodded at once, then hesitated, as if worried the answer might cost her something. "I ate earlier," she added quickly. "But soup would be nice. Mom makes soup when she wants me to feel better." He signaled the waiter and ordered chicken soup, warm bread, and a glass of milk, ignoring the raised eyebrow that came with such an unusual request at such a table. When the waiter left, Lily swung her feet nervously and peeked around the restaurant again, clearly trying to memorize everything. The gold-trimmed mirrors, the soft music, the people dressed like they belonged in magazines. "My mom practiced what she was going to say to you," Lily said, tracing a tiny circle on the tablecloth. "She said you were successful and busy, and that first impressions matter." "And what do you think?" he asked. She shrugged. "I think you look tired. Like my mom when she works double shifts." The honesty made him smile despite himself. "Your mom works a lot." "Every day," Lily replied. "Sometimes nights. Sometimes she skips dinner so I can eat more." She looked up quickly, worried she'd said too much. "She told me not to talk about that." The soup arrived, steam rising gently. Lily's eyes followed the bowl like it was a gift. She waited until he nodded before picking up the spoon, manners careful and precise. Between bites, she talked. About school, about helping with homework on the kitchen floor because they didn't have a table, about counting coins into neat little piles for the bus. "Why didn't you stay home with her?" he asked softly. "She didn't want me to see her cry," Lily answered without hesitation. "And I didn't want her to feel like she lost something because she got sick." She paused, then added, "Mom says chances are like doors. If you don't open them, they disappear." Something tightened behind his ribs. He had built an empire by seizing opportunities, yet here was a child guarding one for her mother with a bravery that humbled him. He realized he wasn't on a date anymore. He was being trusted with a story, and with two fragile lives balanced on hope. When dinner ended, he stood and reached for his coat, but Lily slipped her backpack on first, moving with the quiet efficiency of someone used to leaving places without lingering. Mom said not to stay too long, she explained. She gets worried. I'll walk you home, he said immediately. Her eyes widened. Really? It's not far. Just 3 blocks past the bakery. The night air was sharp, carrying the smell of bread and rain-soaked pavement. Lily skipped over cracks in the sidewalk, pointing out things she liked. The cat that slept near the florist, the mural with peeling stars, the window where old radios were stacked like memories. He matched his stride to hers, listening more than he spoke. The building they stopped in front of was narrow and tired, brick darkened by time. Inside, the stairwell light flickered. Lily climbed quickly, counting steps under her breath. On the 3rd floor, she unlocked the door and hesitated, glancing back at him. Mom, she called softly. The apartment was small but neat, the kind of tidy that comes from constant effort. A thin woman lay on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, her face pale. She sat up in alarm when she saw him standing behind Lily. Oh my God, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean, Lily, you weren't supposed to. He raised a hand gently. Please. She explained everything. Tears filled the woman's eyes as she tried to apologize, words tumbling over one another. About being sick, about not wanting to seem unreliable, about how hard it was to keep going alone. Lily climbed onto the couch beside her, holding her hand. She didn't want to lose the chance, Lily said firmly. So I helped. He looked around. The empty medicine bottles, the overdue notices half hidden on the counter, the chill that lingered despite the heater humming. This wasn't irresponsibility, it was survival. May I make a call? He asked. The woman nodded, stunned. Within minutes, he'd arranged for a doctor to visit in the morning, a pharmacy delivery that night. He spoke calmly, efficiently, as if closing a deal, but his voice softened when he looked at Lily. Hope crept into the room, quiet and fragile. And as Lily leaned against her mother, watching him with wide eyes, he understood that this blind date had led him somewhere far more important than he'd ever planned to go. 3 weeks later, the same restaurant glowed under the same chandeliers, but everything felt different. This time, 2 place cards waited on the table, Emma and Daniel, and a 3rd smaller chair had been quietly added at the side. Daniel arrived early, not out of habit, but out of anticipation. Emma walked in on her own, her steps steady, her color back, hair neatly brushed. She wore a simple dress, nothing extravagant, but confidence softened her movements. Lily followed close behind, wearing a new ribbon, though the old pink backpack was still slung proudly over her shoulders. When Lily spotted Daniel, she waved with both hands. You came, Lily announced, as if he'd been the one at risk of disappearing. I wouldn't miss it, he replied, crouching slightly so he was at her eye level. During dinner, Emma spoke honestly, without rehearsed lines or apologies. She talked about work, about fear, about how close she'd come to giving up on dating entirely. Daniel listened the way he had that first night, fully, without distraction. There was no pretense between them now. No illusion about who needed whom more. I don't have much to offer, Emma said quietly. Just truth. Daniel smiled. Truth is rare. That makes it valuable. Lily colored on the paper placemat, occasionally chiming in with serious observations that made them both laugh. The waiter treated her like a regular, bringing extra bread without being asked. When the check came, Daniel didn't rush it away. He let the moment linger. Outside, under the soft city lights, he knelt in front of Lily. Thank you for coming to dinner that night, he said. You changed my life. She considered this carefully. Mom says good things happen when people are kind. Emma's eyes shone as Daniel took her hand, not as a billionaire claiming a story, but as a man choosing one. He hadn't just found love. He'd found meaning, and it all began the moment a little girl walked into a blind date, carrying hope instead of excuses.